back, everybody, to the Fortune Reads podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Couture, and this is episode 14. This week's guest is a repeat guest. I actually sit down with Aaron from Michigan Ambush Outdoors. If you guys have not listened to that episode already, I encourage you guys to go back and look at the previous podcast, whether that be YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or however you're listening to this, and go look at the episode that we did together, kind of getting to know Aaron and how he started his YouTube channel and how long he's been hunting, which for those of you who don't know, that's the realm that he's in. He does a lot of hunting. And this time we got back on. We both went to Total Archery Challenge in Michigan. We were trying to get together and meet up, but our times kind of conflicted with each other, so we never actually got to meet up over there. So we decided, hey, let's sit down. And I did tell you guys, I kind of did the shorter version podcast of brief overview and recap on my experience, but him and I dive way deeper into this podcast on what the experience was for me being first time shooter at Total Archery Challenge, or TAC for those of you who don't know. If I say TAC, that's what I'm referring to as Total Archery Challenge. And we go over him as this being his second time through. So he's returning and kind of comparing what it was like, because they switched venues this year from Boyne Mountain the previous year to this year. It was at Crystal Mountain in Michigan. And yeah, just super great guy. I enjoy every time, or the last two times that I've got to sit down with Aaron and gone back and forth, just very open. If you guys have any questions, I know he's willing to answer. So look him up, and he'll be linked in the description below and everything, and how to find him. And I encourage you guys to follow him, and hope you enjoy what we have to say. We have, like I said, it was just good conversation, just catching up and reflecting. And I know we're both pumped up for next year, and hopefully we get to see you guys get out there, get bows, and come shooting with us, because we would enjoy that, and it's a good time. So without further ado, here's episode 14. Welcome back, everybody, to the Fortune Roots podcast. I have with me Aaron from Michigan Ambush Outdoors. He's return guest. If you guys haven't seen the episode already that we've done, go back. I encourage you to get to know him and see what he had going on with his YouTube channel. Aaron, how you doing, man?
Doing good. Hanging in there.
So last time we talked, we were getting ready, months before Total Archery Challenge. This was my first. This was your second, correct?
Yep.
Second. Okay. So what did you think of it this year versus last year?
I thought it was pretty good. I mean, there was a couple things that and it's more or less like nitpicking, but I felt like it wasn't as organized as it has been in the past. There was like two incidents that kind of like really stand out, and it was on the first one was on Saturday. And we went to go shoot a second course. The lifts weren't supposed to close till 3, but they ended up closing them early. And then later, we ended up, because we wanted to go shoot prime. We had to jump back and shoot Black Rifle Coffee course because they closed the lifts down early. And then later we found out from one of the guys who was running the shuttles that they had closed the lifts early because there was a wedding. So it seemed like they had a little bit of crossover going on, which in my opinion led to a little bit of it being somewhat disorganized, not crazy. But that was probably the only thing that really bothered me. And then I know on Sunday, they also closed the lift earlies, which didn't really affect me because again, they had another wedding up at the top of the ski lift. So that was probably be my only two complaints. But other than that, I think TAC did an amazing job. I know some people I saw like on Facebook and stuff, they were complaining a little bit that it was supposed to be 25 targets, and then they didn't tell you until you got to the lift that they cut it down to 20 targets. And they were claiming that it was just due to space and safety. But for me, I didn't really think that was that big of a deal. You know what I mean? It wasn't a deal breaker. Right. So but that would probably be the lift closing was a little annoying because, like I said, we wanted to get back up and shoot prime. And we got to the lifts an hour before they closed, and they basically turned us away. So, like I said, it was a little bit of a bummer. But overall, I thought it was it was an amazing event. I think they did a good job, and I think I think from what I've heard, they signed a 3-year contract with Crystal Mountain. So I think it's going to be there, for the next 2 more years it'll be there.
Okay.
And then who knows where they're going to go from there. I don't know if they'd shift back over to Boyne or, if they'll keep it running at Crystal Mountain. I guess we'll see. So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
Yeah, that was I was kind of on board with the little bit of complaint on the 20, I think it was 25. My only
yeah,
reason why, like, 20 was plenty for shooting, but on the first day that I was there on Friday, because I only did the 2 courses while I was there, just because I wasn't sure what it was going to be like. I was like, I'll just ease into it this year. But when I was shooting black rifle on Friday, that was my first course, and the last two, thinking I was starting to lose some arrows because I think I was just getting jittery and
yeah,
nervous, and because day one was shooting, day two I was spot on. I don't know what happened. It was just, I mean, it's just like practice shooting. You have days where you're on and days where you're just not feeling it. So I was going into trying to conserve some arrows because I'm like, I want to be able to shoot Saturday. Like, don't want to lose them all today. So I was like, I'll just skip this one or go up and keep moving with my group. But then it was the last two, and I didn't realize it because I didn't know, they didn't say, oh, it's only 20 beforehand. So we got done. I was like, wait, that was it. I would have taken
yes,
those last two shots. Dang it. I would have at least tried. Like, I
yeah,
had enough. But
yeah.
no, it was super fun event. Like I said, I didn't have anything to compare it to before. So this was all just brand new walking in. And I mean, even from the time that I parked my car and got out and was starting to, put on all the bug spray and the sunscreen, getting the bow all set up, and guys right next to me doing the same thing, and just, hey man, how you doing? Is this your first time at Tech? And like, the atmosphere there is just absolutely insane. Everyone's
Yeah,
super nice.
I would totally agree. It's like everyone was super friendly. Like we ran into multiple people out on, I call it the mountain, out on the mountain, that, we've never met before.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just crazy how well everyone just blended, and how everyone meshed. And it was like, it wasn't any of, like awkwardness, when you first
Yeah.
meet someone, outside of like an event like that, or even at another big event, there was none of that awkwardness. It just seemed like
Mm-hmm.
everyone was, like I said, very friendly, very outgoing. We met one guy from Indiana. I was kind of bummed that we didn't get to exchange contact information, but he ended up shooting with us on, I think it was Saturday morning. He
Mm-hmm.
shot pretty much almost, I'd say, like from the halfway point of the knock on all the way to the end. And it was like, it's like we just knew the guy forever. He just
Mm-hmm.
meshed so well with the group of people that we were already shooting with. So yeah, I would totally agree. It's like everyone there is super friendly.
Yeah, for sure. Like my first day, because when I got there, the first one was Black Rifle, so got shuttled over there to the course, because I think what Black Rifle and Leopold, right, were the two that had to be shuttled over.
Yeah, and Rocky Mountain Elk
Okay.
Foundation was
Okay,
also a
yeah.
shuttle ride. Yeah.
Yeah, so got shuttled over there and hopped off and walk up. And at first I was like thinking that everybody that's on, not knowing, thinking everybody that's on that knock time was one big group that would go, not realizing it's pretty much like golf. Like, if you have your group of buddies, whatever, just kind of go through together. So at first I was just like, I went up by myself, and the guy's like, uh, his name was Chris. And he's like, hey, are you just shooting by yourself, man? And I was like, yeah, it's my first time. He goes, go ahead, you can join us. It was him and his son. His son wasn't shooting, so it was just him and I shooting. But the dude was super, super cool, and like showing me, because the one thing I learned from this whole event is that I need to switch from my set 5 pin to a slider, because it
Yeah.
was difficult for me trying to split pins. I'm like, I think that's 52 yards, just pull and rip and hope for the best.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, he was another guy just meshed really well with, and the dude's job was super cool too, because I was like just making small talk, and he's like, yeah, I work. I can't remember if he was the engineer or just worked at the company, but it's an aerospace company. I'm like, oh, what do you guys do? He's like, well, we got military contracts and all that, and we designed the wings for the F-18s on the fighter jets. So then, of course, I was like, well, did you see Top Gun that just came out? He's like, dude, it was so good.
Yeah.
So we got talking
Yeah.
about that. But
Cool.
yeah, they what were what was your favorite course of that you did while you were there?
Man, it was a toss up. I mean, I really wanted to shoot prime. I was bummed we didn't get to shoot prime. But I did have one of the guys that we went with, he went and shot it, and he said it was pretty good, but it wasn't as technical as knock on. Knock on, for whatever reason, it seems to be
That's what I was hearing.
the like probably the most difficult. I mean, I shot Sitka as well, and Sitka was also extremely challenging. They had a lot of long
Mhm.
distance shots. It really stretched you beyond, like my
Oh
sight
yeah,
tape went to like 10, 105, 108,
there was
and
some
we were
112 in
shooting.
there.
Oh yeah, there I think the Caribou was at like 120,
Yeah.
125, 128. So like yeah, it really stretched it, but I felt like the knock on was like I said, was definitely more technical. A lot of uphill shots and a lot of downhill shots, which, if you're from Michigan, you already know that there are not a lot of places that you
No.
have, that you can go and practice those steep angles. So I feel like that's what, for me personally, that like really gets you out of your comfort zone. Because
Hmm.
like everyone can just go and shoot flat ground at 3D. You can go to a local 3D course and
Yep.
you might get a little bit of elevation, but nothing like what you really saw at
No.
at TAC. And that was the same even over at the Boyne Mountain. It seemed like the knock on course was just super technical the whole way, and it
Hmm.
seems like the hiking is a little more strenuous as well. So, which, kind of makes that course what it is. So I would
Hmm.
probably say, knock on was my favorite. However, I did really like the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation course too. That was a really
Hmm.
fun course. They had that, it was basically all elk targets. So, that was pretty cool. And it seemed like that course was a lot longer than 20 targets. Like we were like halfway through and I'm like, man, I feel like we've already shot 20 targets. Like I can't
Right.
believe we still have like 5 more to go, 6 more to go. So I think all of them did a really good job, but knock on would probably be my favorite for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I did the like I said, Black Rifle, and then I did Sitka were the two that I did while I was there. And I
Okay.
wasn't sure because like as far as signing up, when like I don't know if you heard this. I heard this was kind of an issue this year trying to sign up, is that people went to try and sign up, which myself included, got all the stuff set in and then hit enter, and then the site crashed, didn't get the times, and said that they sold out really quick. I don't know
Yeah.
if you had that experience or
I
not.
didn't have any issue, but I
No.
know that there was a lot of people
I
complaining
was
and
gonna say I heard
hopefully,
that quite a bit just listening and seeing people in line, and
yeah.
I was one of those. So like by the time I got my knock on times, the one on Saturday wasn't until 2, and
Yeah.
then my other one on Friday was noon, which I was like bummed because I wanted to get some earlier ones. And
Yeah.
then that way I can get some second shoots in for the day. And I knew on Saturday once I get up there, like that's it, because the lift was going to be closed by the time I finished it.
Yeah.
But um I totally forgot where I was going with that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I did. I mean, I don't think you're the only one that experienced. It would be nice, but I like talking about that. Like, I don't know, like, how do you fix that? Right. Like,
Hmm.
think about it like from tax point of view. You have an event that literally sells out in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
How do you make it to where registration is better? You know what I mean? The only thing that I could honestly think of, and because like when I registered 3 people, right? So I had to
Yeah.
do all 3 of us at the same time. The only thing that I could think that would make that better is if you can go in and just type in your name, the other guy's name, or whoever's in your group, type their names in, and then select the courses you want, and then you go straight to checkout. Whereas like I had to do it, I had to go type my information in, hit submit, the next guy's information, submit, and so on. So basically on Saturday, what had happened is I had a 10 a.m. knock time. The next guy had an 11. The next guy had a 12. So it just spaced us an hour out each time. But I mean, I contacted TAC right afterwards and they had fixed it. They
Yeah.
got us all in the same time. But when we got up to knock on, there was multiple people there that were all like, "Oh yeah, I got a 10 a.m. knock time." I'm like, "Well, we all do." So like,
Yeah.
whoever wants to go, just go. So I mean, I think that's like the only thing that they could potentially do to fix it. But I don't
Hmm.
know, I don't know how you make an event like this flow easier or smoother when you have that many people logging on at one time,
Hmm.
to get a spot. It's first come first serve. Everyone's gunning
Yep.
for it, you know what I mean? So it's tough. I mean, tech's in a tough spot. I mean, but
Yeah, I know that was one of the employees there that had the tax event shirts on was talking about it, and like they said they knew that was a big issue for a lot of people, and they said that's like their number one priority of hoping to get a better system for that fix. So I'm looking forward to next year. Hopefully that goes smoother that way. Because
Yeah.
even was it if I'm not mistaken, the earlier courses too, didn't that cost extra to go for, or
Yeah, I think
no?
they did charge you a little extra fee, like an early morning fee. I'd have to go back and look at my
Just because it's
registration.
so popular, I think, right? Most
Yeah,
people just want
yeah.
to do it. Yeah.
I think you did pay like $10 more, but I mean, it is what it is. I think, I mean, you pay $10 more, but you're shooting another course in the
Yeah.
afternoon. So it's
Yeah.
like the $10 to shoot another course. It's not, I mean, to me, it wasn't that big of a deal, but I did see online some people were kind of complaining about it, but it is
Yeah.
what it is, man. I mean, I think it was, I think they do a stand-up job at the
Hmm.
whole event. I think they do an outstanding job with the amount of vendors that they get. And like,
Yeah.
I'd say like top end vendors too. It's not like they got, just
Just
nobody showing
whatever.
up, right? You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
I think they do a good job at getting vendors, and I think they do an awesome job at setting up the courses, and
Yeah.
it was a good time. Like I showed up on Friday. I had a knock time for Leopold, but being that technically the lift's open at 1, you can go and shoot whatever course. So I
Hmm.
had a knock on time for Leopold, but we went and shot the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. So I shot that course, and then Saturday morning we shot Knock On, and then we jumped on and shot Black Rifle Coffee, and then we shot Sitka on Sunday morning, and then
Hmm.
I had to leave. But yeah, I mean, it's like I felt like I got my money's worth for sure.
100%. So I
Yeah.
guess I was a little confused myself because when you are able to hop on, did you have to go and talk with people at Tech, or do you just walk up to the courses that you're like, hey, I just want to shoot it,
Yeah, you
and they
just walk
just
up to the
and that's
lift.
it?
Yeah, you just
Okay.
basically get in line. So, yeah, you don't really have to talk to anyone. They just basically say, yeah, it's a first come, first serve. As long as you're on the lift before it closes, you can go and shoot whatever course. Obviously, that it kind of sets itself up a little bit to have a backup. Like when
Hmm.
you get there, like when we were shooting Black Rifle Coffee in the afternoon, we didn't get off that course until, I mean, I think it was almost 7 o'clock at night, because there
Oh,
were so
really?
many people, that were getting shuttled over there. Yeah, it
Yeah,
took us
that's so
forever to
long.
even get there. And then, like I said, when we got dropped off, there was just like, it was a huge crowd of people. And we had a pretty big group too. But like I said, yeah, we didn't even get off till
Were they
7.
running a bigger shuttle by then? Because I know when I went Friday, it was literally just one like tiny shuttle bus
Yeah.
taking everyone. That was it. And then the
No,
next day they came in, there was like a big trailer thing.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
what we got on. So I think they ended up getting like, I think I saw a total of like three different shuttles.
They
But
needed it.
yeah,
Yeah.
it seemed like on Saturday, like Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation was like the course everyone wanted to shoot. So we were kind of like
Mhm.
in a good spot that we were going to shoot Black Rifle.
Yeah.
I heard a lot of, I didn't shoot it, so I can't really say much, but some people were kind of complaining about Leopold. They were like, it wasn't what they thought it would be. They're like,
Mhm.
I'm not shooting Leopold again, because that was the other thing that we had to debate on. Like, hey, it's getting late. Do we just shoot Leopold because we can get on that right now, or do we shoot Black Rifle? And a couple guys were like, I'm not. There's no way I'm shooting Leopold again. I was like, oh, is that bad? But so, but yeah, I mean, overall, I thought it was, pretty stellar setup. So it's always a good time, man. I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to going next year. I'm already thinking about it, and like how I can change my setup and get it a
Dude.
little more dialed in. Yeah, I
100%.
was curious, like what was like what year what would you end up like running? I know obviously I think you got a PSE bow, but I
Yep.
was gonna ask you about your sight setup. So you had just a 5 pin?
Yeah, the site, I couldn't even tell you the name of the site because it was when I first decided, like, you know what, I want to get a bow. This was like probably 2 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just because I was like, I can't keep spending all this money on ammo to go shoot my gun. At least with an arrow, I can retrieve it and save some
Yeah.
money, hopefully. Uh, Little did I know getting into this that I'll probably end up spending more on my bow setup as time goes on and arrows and all that. But uh, yeah, so it's just a set fixed 5 pin sight that the dude threw in the package when he gave me the bow. Um,
Mm.
but it's not very user friendly as far as like adjusting. Like there's no, obviously you don't have the spin dial on the side to account for yardage. So I just set in the backyard here, just kind of was like setting pins. I did like a 20, 30, what was it? No, 20, 40, 50, and then a 60 and an 80.
Oh, okay. So you got out there pretty good though.
I got out. Yeah, I'm glad I did too. Cause like you said, when I did the Sika course, like there were some long shots in there.
Oh
And
yeah.
I'm glad I at least had an 80. And I was like, just kind of doing one of those. I think just go a little bit above, couple inches. Hopefully this lands. And I mean, ran okay enough. I surprised myself. Like I said, Black Rifle course, I think was easier for sure as far as technical shots go versus the Sika course. But I shot Sika far better than I did Black Rifle. And
Yeah.
I not it could have been my pins were off maybe closer on because those weren't nearly as far. But the Sika course, like I said, and even not shooting steep angles up or down like you were saying, being in Michigan, it's my backyard's super flat here, and
Yeah.
uh wasn't sure how that was going to go. And I actually talked to John Barklow on a previous podcast, and he's telling me, he's like, do you know what that bubble on your site is? Well, I was like, well, yeah, it's a level. He goes, well, yeah, do you know how to use it? And I was like, to be honest, no, I've never really thought of it. He starts laughing and he's like, dude, you got, and we were talking. He's like, you got to definitely look that up. And he goes, if you have questions, you can text me, let me know, because if you don't figure that out when you're doing your angle shots, you're going to be so confused and you're going to have
Yeah.
PTSD. And I'm glad he said something, because every time I made that shot, I made sure that bubble's level, and I hit just about everything. I only lost, I think, 2 arrows on the whole course, and one of them
Yeah.
went in a tree.
That's pretty good. Yeah. I center punched
Just
the
because
tree
it
on knockout.
just because it was trying to thread the needle, you just heard it whoosh, just
Yeah.
laying in there. You're like, yep, that's stuck.
Yeah. Yeah. Bubble's critical, man. Like second, I mean, your third axis, that's what it is. That's where it like really, that's it needs to be set up. And that's where I think so like on uphill shots, I did fine. Downhill shots, I was shooting to the left consistently. So I think
Mhm.
I think my third axis is even off. So I set it at the house, but then I had to make another adjustment. I ran out of room to the right, so I had to move my sight, and then I had to re-level it, and I never rechecked my third axis because I was like running
Mhm.
out of time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely the bubble is critical when you're shooting the uphill and downhill
And
shots
for
for
people
sure.
that might not know, could you explain the third axis and like what that is on a bow in order
Yes.
to get it straight?
Yeah, so like on your bow, let me think about this real quick. So like the first axis is getting it level to the bow, to the riser, and then your second axis is leveling the housing. You're basically think of your housing moving left to right, so you
Mhm.
get that level. So you got your first axis level, your second axis level, and then your third axis is like canting the sight either I guess you could say kind of towards you or away from you. And that's going to be your third axis. And the reason why that's so important, and a lot of people, so if you go out and you buy an adjustable sight that has a third axis, 9 times out of 10, what they're going to do, and this isn't the wrong way to do it, but 9 times out of 10, what they'll do is they'll use like a bright sight, is what they call it, or they'll use some type of sight jig. They'll put it on there and they'll cant the sight, and then they'll
Mm.
level out your third axis. Now that's going to get you close, but the true way to set up a third axis is to draw your bow and then put it at that decline or an incline, because what's happening is your riser is actually torquing at
Oh,
full
okay.
draw, and that torque is influencing that sight. So like I said,
Oh.
you can get it close when you use a jig, but to get it really dialed precisely, you want to do it at full
Hmm.
draw. And there's a tool that they sell. It's a Hamskea third axis leveling tool. So you can pick those up for relatively pretty cheap. And you
Hmm.
can sight that in, either that or like if you have like a door jam that is level, or a plumb bob. You can use any one of those. I use a plumb bob. basically in
Mhm.
my garage. I go to full draw. I make sure I'm level. I know my first and second axis is level, so that those two are critical, right?
Yep.
And then I don't pay attention to the bubble because I know I'm level. I just put my pins on that string and go down as far as I can go. And depending on which way my bubble moves, then I'll adjust, and then I'll
Okay.
just redo it and keep doing it until it's money, and then you're good. So yeah, that's your third axis kind of in a nutshell.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah. Because I know he talked about third access, and like you said, by the time we talked, I was just like, well, it's getting. I didn't have the time to get all that dialed in, so I was just like, okay, I'll just pay attention for the bubble. And must have been set up pretty decently because for the most part, I hit hit all right on most of the stuff.
Yeah, that's
Um,
good, man. Because like I said, I mean, there were I mean, some of the shots on Sitka were crazy. I mean, they were far. Like that's even when I went to now keep in mind I didn't shoot Sitka last time I went to TAC.
mhm.
But the farthest shot that was at Boyne was 120 on the knock on course. So there wasn't like I'm pretty sure that Caribou was like 128.
Yeah,
And
it
then
was it was out
it
there.
was and then they had that other, it was like a ram at like 110, which is like a,
That ram was yeah.
yeah, that's small at
It's so
110. So
small.
like
I was like, dang it.
you have a very you have a very small margin of error, you know what I mean? I missed both of those targets.
Mhm.
But then I hit that elk pretty good. I made a pretty good shot on that elk at 108. So but yeah, it was that was a really, that, like I said, that course really tested your sight tape for
Oh,
sure.
it 100% did. Because when we like even just walking up to the first shot, I was going, "Oh man, this is way different than the Black Rifle course yesterday." Like that first shot going down, I'm like looking for it because I didn't have any binos either. I had my rangefinder at least, so that made it easy. But at first, I'm like, "Where the hell is that target at, man?" And
Yeah, it was
it
tucked in
blended
the
in.
woods.
It was overcast on Saturday when I went, so it was super dark. And then I saw it, and I was like, "All right, just pull," because the guys are like, "Who wants to go first?" And I was like,
I'll do
well, might as get this out of the way.
it.
Like, just watch me whiff so you guys feel better, I guess.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, no, pulled back and hit it, and it just kind of like something clicked in the head. Is like, oh, okay. So as long as I just follow through my steps, go through pull, draw, and take every little bit, and as long as I hopefully dialed in the sights as close as I could get, we should be okay. And the rest of the day, like, went fairly well.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think we talked about this a little bit on the initial podcast that we did. It's like having a shot process, like, what are you doing? Like go through your shot process, and as long as you
Mhm.
can do that and focus in, you're gonna make a good shot, right? Like
Yep.
you just got to stay focused. And I think it's definitely easy. And this is even coming from me. Like I shoot archery all the time. I've been to, this is now my second TAC event. But like when you get there, like, man, it's like, whoa, it's intimidating,
Yeah.
especially when you get out on the course and you start seeing some of these targets, and like there's no backstops. If you
No.
miss, you're blowing up an arrow, you're not finding it. So it is intimidating. But I think what helps is obviously the more courses you shoot, the more comfortable you get, the more you realize that,
Mhm.
like all I got to do is go through the shot process, be confident, and most likely you're gonna, at least minimum hit foam. You know what I mean? So
That was the name of the game was foam is home. Foam
yeah,
is home
yeah.
all weekend
Everyone
long.
was saying that. Like, oh
I
man, you
heard
hit it
that.
in
I'm
the,
like, yes.
yeah, you're like, oh man, you hit it in the guts, man. It's foam.
like
It's
like
foam.
fine by me.
Yeah,
What?
no, there were some shots that I had made. Definitely on Sitka, there was that one. Um, it had that deer that was tucked into the woods. It was downhill. It was like an 86-yard shot, and you'll
Mm-hmm.
see it on the next video that's gonna post this week. But like, it was like back cam, like of the deer. I'm like, yeah, that I would have never found that one if that was a real
Yeah.
shot. You know what I mean? So yeah, but it's like, when you're shooting those kind of courses, it's like you try to do your best job, but like you said, as long as you're hitting foam, you're usually pretty happy. So
Yeah, that one on the Sitka course, that was I think it was the first pull and retrieve, and it was that deep kind of valley, went down. I think it was like 70-ish yard shot in between, like you had to split the two trees. and
Yeah.
it was on that. I think it was a Ram or something, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. I'm trying to think which one that was.
I can't remember. It's the one. Well, I don't know if I posted it on the Instagram story or if it's on my actual feed, but I posted it, and that was the one that was like by far my favorite shot of the whole time. It was the one I did the best on because it was just going down in that valley, angled down, and I mean, you had to thread the needle because it was just lined with arrows on both sides, pulled back, and not only like it felt good all the way through the shot process. And then walking up there, I was like, oh well, I hit foam, I'm good. Like, and it looked like it was in the general area of the vitals. Walked up, and it was right in that 12 ring, and then. It was
Oh,
just cool because you
nice.
have
Yeah.
all the guys like, dude, that's awesome. High five
Yeah.
in, like, let's go. And they're like,
Yeah.
you did it with a 5 pin too. Like,
Yeah.
we're all laughing. I'm like, yeah, I know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's legit. Yeah, it's always good when you hit the 12 ring for sure. Yeah, a couple things that I was struggling on is like, and I think a lot of it has to do with like I was doing so many different reviews on releases, and like I was going down like
Yeah,
rat holes with these
you were.
releases, dude. And I spent so much time on these other releases, I didn't spend enough time with my own release. And for a while I did think I really wanted to like that new Stan Onyx, but it didn't end up working out. But like I said, I spent so much time on those other releases, I
Mhm.
didn't spend enough time on my own.
What
And
did
so
you end
like
up using?
I used my Carter Wise Choice, which
Okay.
is a handheld. And like I felt like at times I felt like it was too light, and then at times it felt way too heavy, and I'm like, what is going on? I'm like, I can't get settled
Mhm.
with this. And then when I got home and I started shooting, it was way too light. Like it was like, and that's why it was going off so fast. And so I actually turned that up a little bit, the sensitivity, and now I can like get on the throttle and then pull,
Yeah.
and then it'll break. So like, yeah, there was some things that I wish I could like go back and focus a little bit more time on getting
Mhm.
prepared for TAC versus, spending so much time it's messing around with all these other releases, you know what I mean? But
Yeah,
it's all
absolutely.
it's all part of the game. So
Because that was one of the things for me. I know I'd messaged you before, like, hey, I switched releases and I need to adjust. Like, it feels like I'm sitting way too far back on my nose and all that with the string. And because I think it was only 2-ish, 3-ish months before I went from for the last year and a half shooting the wrist release to now I got the Silverback Plus.
oh nice.
And uh, so switching over to that had to, because at first I was like, man, it was a weird feeling trying to
Yeah.
get used to that. And I wasn't sure how I was going to do per se with just the tension and trying to like I tried dialing that in here, like getting that right sweet spot of because sometimes it felt like okay, that was too light. I just pulled and it went off, and other times you're like, okay, pulling, pulling, pulling. Like I don't have much arm left back to pull. Feels like but even one of the guys on the Sika course, because we had our group that we were shooting with, and we kind of kept running into the group ahead of us, and we finally just said, "Hey, let's all shoot together." Um, the guy's name's Craig, and he was super super helpful because he doesn't own a bow shop or anything, but he's been shooting archery for years, and we actually exchanged number. He's up in the thumb area, and he brought his nephew and his nephew's friend with him, and basically their archery coach is what I gathered from talking with him. And he's like, because he's like, yeah, you look like you're shooting fine and all that, but something looks a little off. Let me just see. And he's like, it was the last one on the Sika course, that little tiny bear. He's like,
Yeah.
he's like, you do you. I'll just watch your shot process, go through all your steps and see if I can't help you tweak anything. And he said as far as process, he's like, man, good job on the process. Like I have nothing as far as like you lift it up, you pulled back, everything is good. Said the only thing is it looks like even after talking with you and adjusting it where it felt like I had the draw length shortened down, he's like, I would adjust it down just one more because it was sitting, the string was sitting more so on my cheek than it
Oh
was
yeah.
on the tip of my, it felt like it was on my nose, but it was also digging in my cheek, which I couldn't tell because I hadn't seen myself doing that. Just felt good. And he's like, try that. So I adjusted it after I got back home from TAC and all that. And I haven't been able to shoot. I've just been busy with work and doing
Yeah.
podcast stuff. But once I get out there, I'm curious to see because there were times where like everything felt good and just release when I needed to, and then there were those times where it kind of felt like I need to keep pulling. So I'm wondering if I was just a little already too far back on it. Probably.
Yeah, it's funny how like a half inch can really throw you off. And what's also funny is like when you have that string on the side of your face and not up close to your nose, like you're inducing, and you don't even realize it, but like
Mhm.
you're inducing torque on that string. So I'd be surprised that now that that's corrected, if you
Mm,
have less left to right misses,
yeah.
because you're no longer going to be influencing that string. So most likely, you would probably settle in and you'd push that string off to the left, which would, or
Interesting.
to the right, which would direct your arrow. Most likely, you'd probably have more left misses than you would
Hmm.
right misses. But yeah, I'm curious to see if you get a little more consistent with lowering that draw length a little bit. Yeah, that's like one thing that I always tell people, like if you're going to shift over to a handheld, you're gonna lose. Like I think I lost like a half inch when I went to the Carter Wise choice. I had to bump mine down a half inch. So
Yeah.
but yeah, but I mean I honestly I don't think I could go back to shooting a wrist strap style release after shooting a handheld. I think it just
I
feels way
It
more
feels
natural.
better. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It
And
gives
I'm
me that
actually,
anchor point really quick and
oh
easy
yeah, yeah.
versus the wrist. I was always like
Yeah, you're
moving.
like trying to, get under your jaw. Whereas like I use, my index and my middle finger, and I put that right between, those two fingers, my jawbone right between those, and I know
Yep.
I'm anchored every single time. And yeah, I'm also looking at, because like the good thing about the silverback is you can also transition over to the knock
Knock,
on, not the,
hmm
or the knock
The
to
knock
it,
to it.
and they're basically, they're almost the exact same chassis. So you'll
Hmm.
be able to play around with both of those. So I was also looking at the silverback, or Carter actually makes the Carter Evolution 20, which is essentially the same
Yeah.
release as the silverback, just a three finger. So, but
Okay.
yeah, I want to try the silverback though. I know Derek picked one up at TAC. So
Oh, he
I was,
did.
yeah, he bought one. He's like, I think I'm really gonna like it. I was like, well, I'm gonna try it out.
Yeah, I
So
say it was pretty good, and because I at first I was like, do I get the knock two or do I go with the silverback? Because especially I was thinking more so hunting later on in the fall. Like, is that really something I'd want to be using versus just having just for the sake of having the trigger almost the thumb release and the knock two. And talking with John Barklow on the podcast, he's like, dude, the silverback's gonna help with your any target panic that you have.
oh
It
yeah,
just really minimizes that because you're just focusing on the fundamentals of pulling through, getting that pull through shot, and it'll go. And
yeah.
he goes, and I hunt with it too, which I was like, oh really? Like, I don't know why I didn't think it, but he's like, yeah, I go out on all my hunts, and that's when apparently what he uses. He's like, so if you get comfortable with it, you get good enough, like I'd recommend using it. So that's why I was like, okay, that's the one I'll try.
Yeah, I think that style of release forces you to slow down too. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Because like you can't punch it, right? Like
Yeah.
you can, I mean, you can over pull, you know, you can, like if your adrenaline gets too jacked up, you can, I mean, I've heard of people like, they get so fired up, they pull and they pull too much and it fires the release. But like, like I said, that's where like if you set it properly, and I think they recommend like 5, 7 pounds over your holding weight, that forces you to like pull, pull, pull,
Mm-hmm.
pull, and then eventually it's going to break. So like that type of shooting, the proper way to shoot, forces you to slow down. So I mean, in my opinion, but and I think that like for me, I used to, before I went to a handheld, I always shot an index. So it was like, you just
Yep.
you
Yep.
slapping it,
Yep.
and and then I went to the handheld, and even then I found myself hitting the thumb button versus just let my thumb rest on the button and then pull until the shot actually broke.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I shoot it now, and it's like my groups have drastically improved.
Because I'm
So
curious if I eventually do get a knock two, seeing the difference. Because with the silverback, obviously that thumb's what's your safety, which is locking it. So
yeah,
I'm used to holding it right now. And then once I kind of get close on my target, my sight picture, and I slowly release off it and just keep pulling through. So, versus obviously the other way around, coming through and then slowly pushing. I feel like that'd probably throw me off. I know some guys say it does completely if you've got used to one or the other, but
Yeah, yeah, you definitely have to get readjusted though, like I know when I when I first got my thumb button, um, I definitely put one in my garage wall. Because I was drawing back and I had my finger on the thumb button
yeah.
and like halfway, bam, it
Oh,
broke. And I'm like,
whoops.
that did not sound like the target or the backstop. And yeah, I went in my garage and it was just like buried in the
I'm sure
wall.
the wife was happy with that.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, she's more pissed about, she's like, oh man, you broke another arrow. She's like, now you need more.
Sounds like you got to keep her then. If
Yeah,
that was the worry.
yeah, for sure. So, but yeah. So what did you like? So you said you ended up shooting black rifle and then the Sitka. Like what do you feel like you could have done differently to like better prepare for TAC? Because like I mean I know just based on following you from Instagram and talking with you before, you actually in your own backyard can stretch it out pretty far.
Hmm.
Like I mean, do you feel like there's anything that you could have done more to better prepare after now that you've
Now
already gone through and shot
going,
it?
yeah, now going. I mean, it's just a lot of like not having the right gear to be able to test these things. So like getting a better bow scale to see what I'm actually drawing, because like I got a cheapo one, but it never gives me a perfectly accurate reading every time. So I'm like pull it like three different times. I'm like, I'll guess in between those numbers, and I think that's what
Yeah,
it's at. Um, but as far as shooting, like I said, the big takeaway for me is the next upgrade is going to have to be a better sight, so I can actually dial in and getting those further shots and feeling more comfortable at it. And I even have at my house, like I do have some room to where I can stretch out to 100 yards. If I'm going from the very back end of the yard to the very front, I can hit 100. Neighbors look at me a little weird, probably like I'm standing
yeah,
out in the front yard with this bow and arrow. I'm like, well, hopefully nobody cares, and the neighbors are pretty cool about it. But
yeah,
and I can actually, because I was just thinking of it, like I'm upstairs right now in the house, and we have the windows, they'll completely open, so I could get. I mean, it's not the greatest elevation in the world, but it's something. I could get some more practice on that because, like you said, that was just a whole new ball game
yeah,
of understanding. Trying like you just don't get many opportunities for that kind of a thing. Um, I was going into it, I was a little worried because I was just like trying to get like during COVID. I got COVID back in December, so I got super sick, and for a little bit there, and I mean, I lost like what was it? I think I was at like 290 then, and I dropped down to 230 in about 10 days because I lost that much
Whoa,
weight from it. Yeah,
yeah,
it
that's
was.
a lot.
So I went from that, and then I was just super weak, and it took forever, and then just didn't feel like working out and getting into that stuff, and even just getting into work was slow. So I wasn't like in the best physical shape that I wanted to be in going into this.
Yeah,
So just kind of felt weaker, but trying to prep for that even next year. Like, thankfully, that's why I just stuck with the two courses. Um, but it wasn't too bad, but trying to get in better physical shape because the Sitka, like Black Rifle, is just super flat, so it was easy to walk.
yeah,
That Sitka, that was definitely that more up and down, climbing the terrain, and but I mean, I handled it well. Considering like I didn't think at any point like, oh man, I'm not going to make it down this mountain or make it up this hill or whatever. So trying to dial that in general will probably be better. And even I got some Schnee's boots earlier in the spring and tried breaking those in. I don't know if I broke them in quite enough. I definitely
yeah.
did that trip, but by the end of it, my feet were definitely still kind of feeling it.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, yeah. It's. I mean, I don't think know if you can really avoid that. Yeah, like especially if you're not, if you're not hiking all the time, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I definitely I would agree with you though that like a slider sight would be a game changer. You know,
Mm-hmm.
definitely when you start shooting like total archery challenge, those type of yardages, that would drastically help you. Just having yardage markers at least out to 100
Yeah.
is gonna be a huge help for sure.
Doing that, and even beforehand, because I was just shooting a whisker biscuit for
Yeah,
the
yeah, the
time
good old
being.
Worcester
So,
biscuit. Yeah,
so I had that for the year and a half, and when I went and got, and I also added some stabilizers. I went up to Sunrise, um, I forget when, a couple months ago now, when I went to go get prep for all this stuff. And that's kind of how I found you, is like, okay, what do I need for total archery challenge? Just search that in YouTube and saw your stuff and like get your arrows, get all that gear and that. So I kind of, even before just going to shoot, because at first I was like, yeah, whatever, I'll just go shoot. I'm glad I didn't, just because I switched to the Q80, had that in there, that worked very well. And then they set me up with a micro compact stabilizer, and that kind of helped because I did have that bow kind of torquing a little bit, and
Oh
I
yeah.
could feel it level my hand out a lot easier.
Yeah. Running a back bar.
Yeah, running the back. So yeah, those were just kind of some little stuff that I did before. So I'm not sure how I would have shot. Otherwise, I mean, I probably would have been way all over the place. And even on the arrows, I think that's something going forward I'm going to try and dive into, is learning more on arrow setup and builds, and just for the sake of knowing how to do it myself, but also like I went into Sunrise. I was like, I'm going to tech. I don't really know what to get. I just need a bunch of arrows so I don't lose them, and just so I can have a good time. And I think I just went with the cheapest ones there, which I'm glad I
Yeah.
did, because I did lose a few, so I didn't feel too bad about it. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but definitely trying to, as I get the slider sight and dialing all this stuff in, I feel a little more comfortable even next year going, okay, I'm going to spend a little bit more money for a better arrow setup. That way I know, dial that in, make sure I'm hitting my shots better.
Yeah. I think next year I'm gonna probably run like an ultra light arrow for tack. Um, I'll have to figure out how I'm gonna do it though, because with my with the sight that I'm running, it's a black gold. It you don't have. I mean, you can change the sight tapes, but you got to peel them off.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, do you really want to do that? Where some sites, like the HHAs, you can take the wheel off and get a separate wheel and throw it on for a different arrow setup, and then just line it up for like you say you got a 20-yard pin, just reline it up
Mm-hmm.
so you could have two different arrow setups and shoot. So that's one thing I'm going to debate on. I think I might run, because like I ran like a 450 grain arrow. If I bump that down and didn't front load the arrow with a bunch of weight, I could probably float like right around like 400, which would be, you could probably get out well past 100 on a sight tape, like probably more like 120 on a
Mm-hmm.
sight tape. So yeah, I'm going to tinker around with it, next year. So, and see if I can't get something a little lighter and get
Absolutely.
little more distance. So, but like I bottomed out my sight before I even ran into like a clearance issue. So obviously with a lighter arrow,
Mm-hmm.
your gaps will be closer, you know what I mean? So you'll extend that sight tape out a little bit more. So like I said, I bottomed out like right around like 108. So
Mm-hmm.
it'd be nice to be able to, when you do have those shots at 120, that you have a yardage marker for it.
Right.
You're like, I think I'm
I
just gonna
think,
use my bubble, you know.
right.
So but yeah, that's what I'll play around with next year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we talked about it a little bit earlier, but the vendor village, did you go through there, and did you see any like new vendors or booths that you were super interested, or people that you talked to while you're there?
Yeah, so one booth that I was really interested in checking out was the Latitude booth, because they came out with those two platforms. I know one's called the X-Wing, and then I forgot what the other one was called. But they came out with two brand new saddle platforms that I was really interested in checking out. I definitely wanted to see the X-Wing in person,
Mm-hmm.
because it's a very unique design. Um, it's not like anything that is available on the market right now, that at least that I'm aware of. And now keep in mind, I'm like newer to saddle hunting, but like I said, I was very interested in checking that out, and I was glad I did, because I got to go over there, step on the platform, move around on it. It feels a lot bigger than it actually looks online. So that might be something that I pick up later down the road and
Mm-hmm.
play around with, so we'll see. But other than that, it's always good going over to the knock on booth. John Dudley, his wife Sharon, I believe her name is, they are what they do for the archery community, I think is
Mhm.
amazing. I think they're both very genuine people. So it's always good going over there and getting to talk with them. We
Yeah.
talked with Sharon on Sunday morning, and then of course we talked to John on Saturday when we got off the knock-on course. So
Hmm.
both super cool people, and like I said, it's awesome to see what they do for the archery community. But
Yeah, John was super cool. Because I didn't shoot the knock on, but people hearing from other people, they're like, yeah, he's right over there. You can just go sit down, and he's like, you don't care. You can walk up there, talk, shoot, and uh, just super nice guy, like down to earth,
oh
and
yeah,
makes it like he took the time to just talk with me for even just a couple minutes, and is like everyone there for the most part, a good amount of people are waiting to say hi and all that. But when he's sitting there, he's made you feel like you're the only person he was talking to. Just like you said, super genuine. And had it not been for him and like the Joe Rogan podcast going on there and talking with him and like Andy Stump and all that, I myself never would have got into archery or doing
yeah.
any of this stuff because hearing him talk about that and like even going on elk hunts and I'm like, oh, what's this elk? I didn't even know what an elk was before. Really, I was
All
just
right.
like I've seen it, and then I was like, oh, this actually looks really cool. And just hearing the stories and yeah, like you said, what they've done for the community is super cool.
Yeah. Yeah, he
Um,
was awesome, man. Cause like one of the guys that we shot with, the guy from Indiana, his name was also Aaron. Um, he had a knock to it and
mhm,
he was having an issue with it. And what it ended up being is, I think it's on the knock to it now too, but there's two different screws. There's like a trigger travel and then trigger tension that you can adjust. And
mhm.
I think he had one of those set too light. So his release
Oh,
was prematurely going off. Anyway, so when we got down to the bottom of the mountain, I like asked John, I was like, hey, Mr. Dudley, he's having an issue with his knock to it. Can you check it out? And he looked at it and he adjusted it. And he's like, man, if you don't feel comfortable with it, he's like, here, just take mine. And so he gave
that's
him,
pretty cool.
yeah, he gave him his gold knock to it, which is like this.
Seriously.
Yeah. So, and Aaron, it was funny because Aaron's like, man, I kind of feel guilty taking this release from him. I'm like, man, he's gonna go over and grab a
I was
new
gonna
one out
say
of the
he's just
box
gonna
anyways, dude. Like, I'm like, John Dudley offered you his release. I'm like,
take it.
take it, dude. I
He
was like,
wouldn't do it if he didn't.
yeah,
That's the kind of
exactly.
guy he is. He wouldn't do
Yeah,
it
it's like if
anyway.
he didn't want to do it, he wouldn't have offered it up to you. But even
Right.
before he gave him his release, he's like, you can go to the booth and Sharon will swap it out for you. So it's just like, I mean, like I said, stand up dude. So it's always good getting to talk with him and his
Hmm.
wife. They're both very
Yeah.
genuine people. And then what was one of the other booths? I went to the trophy line booth. There was a guy over there. I don't know his name, but I follow him on Instagram. I think his channel's called Man Over Beast. He
Okay.
was over at that booth, so I got to go over there, say hi to him, and then but yeah, I thought the vendor, as you called it, would you say the vendor village? That was pretty
Yeah.
good. Yeah, it was a pretty good setup. So yeah.
Yeah. I went over there. I also like even like this hat. I was just walking by and because I had my other Sika hat, my with the elevated two print on there, and the dude, one of the guys that was sitting in there, because they didn't really have anything like per se to look at, like gear wise, they were just chilling. So it was I didn't really feel the need to go over. I was like, I don't know these people.
Yeah.
But he goes, hey, nice hat. And originally I was like, oh, thanks, man. And he's like, so what are you doing here? Like, or is this your first time at Tech? And just got talking. And long story short, by the time we were done, he's like, hey, do you want to try and win a free hat? And I was like, twist my arm. And he's like, okay. He pulled out this deck of cards. He's like, all right, all you got to do is guess high or low or red or black. You get three in a row right, you get a hat. I'm like, all right, cool. So he flips the card over and then he's like, okay, you want high, low, red, or black? I go low. Flips it. It was high. He's like, you could tell he's like just want to give the hat away. He's like, do you have a funny joke? I guess. So I'm like, sure, man. What do you call a fish with no eyes? And they're all looking at each other, it worked out because I saw it on a YouTube video the night before. I was like, Psh. And the dude's just pity laughs. He's like, here, just have the hat. I was like,
Just take
okay,
it.
thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
But I like that, and I also like that. I don't know if you took full advantage of this because I know I probably drank way too much coffee while I was there because Black Rifle had just the hot coffee was not the move for me. It was way too warm, but they had those coolers with their ready to go, like iced coffees.
Oh, I did not see that.
Dude, you missed out because those things I know how much they normally cost because my like I only get them with my girlfriend works at Bass Pro, so when they're on sale, I'm like, hey, pick me some up because I'm not gonna pay the full price for them usually. But
Yeah.
yes, I took full advantage of that, and then I also went over to the Tethered booth, talked with those guys. They were super cool. One of the guys that was there, I don't think he's affiliated, like actually worked for the company, but he's a local Michigan guy.
Andy May.
I think so. I just know his Instagram name, Bow Hunting Dad or something.
Yeah, Andy May.
Yeah, so I went and talked with him for a little bit, and one of the other guys because I'd never been in a saddle at all.
Yeah.
So went over and then talked with some. I forget what the other guy's name was, but he got me in the saddle and tried that out, and I knew that was something that I was gonna do this season anyways. Was I was gonna get a saddle, so the deal that they are running there, I was like, well, might as well just because I was gonna get it afterwards. I just wanted to see kind of which one fit better.
Yeah.
And then they were like, then I just pulled trigger. So I got my whole setup and all that from those guys, and they were super cool and
Nice.
helpful. But
yeah, Andy May's a slayer, dude. Like that guy's like
I just recently saw him and followed him real quick, but I haven't.
You should look him up. Like look him up. Look up some of his podcasts. That guy is filled with useful information, man. He is.
Yeah.
And I learned this through Derek at Sunrise. He said that there was someone did a poll. I think it was Exodus Broadheads did a poll on the top 10 bow hunters in the nation, and they said Andy May was number one. So like that guy's he's a slayer, dude. So
yeah, he's super nice when I talked to him. I didn't realize that.
He's like he kills like monster public land deer year over year. So like that guy's he knows what he's doing for sure. So if you're getting tips from Andy May, man, there's probably not too many guys better, to be giving advice for bow hunting. Yeah, and I think he's primarily like all saddle hunter. But yeah, I was kind of bummed. I wanted to go over there and shake his hand. I didn't get the opportunity to, but yeah, I would check him out. He's got he did a lot of podcasts with what's that guy's name over at the Meat Eater podcast.
Steve Ranella.
No, the other guy.
Ben O'Brien used to be one, or
I don't know. You can just if you just search him, it'll pop up.
Yeah, it'll pop up.
Yeah, but yeah, he's got some pretty good information to give. So yeah, he sheds a lot of light on some of his hunting tactics and stuff. So yeah, the guy's a slayer, man. Yeah, but that's awesome. You got the saddle set up because one of the guys that I went elk hunting with in 2019, I was there with him, and then his son Tristan actually shot that target to win a saddle. Or get entered to win a saddle. So, and then the guy running the shoot was like, oh, if you can shoot that target at 75 yards and get an inside out 10 ring, he's like, I'll give you a saddle right now. And he shot, and this was his first time shooting from a saddle, but he ended up shooting.
I think I saw, didn't they post that on Instagram? Because I think I saw a couple people that did that and they lost. They're like, well, shouldn't have made that bet.
they might have. I think I posted the video of Tristan shooting, but like I thought he smoked it, man. Like he made an awesome shot. And I was like, holy shit, man, he just won a saddle. And he's like, no, not quite. And I was like, oh, dude, bummer. I was like, you should, Tristan was joking around. He's like, I'm going to change my clothes and come back here tomorrow and tell him my sight only goes out to like 50 yards and see if he'll give me another shot. I was like, yeah, I don't know if that's going to work, dude. But yeah, everyone, I mean, all the vendors, man, they were like I said, it was top-notch selection on the people that go, and set up booths, all of them super friendly, super helpful if you had questions, and then another good booth is always the Kifaru booth. I'm a huge fan of Kifaru packs. So it's always good going over there and checking out what they got. So
yeah, I was just talking with, I don't know if you saw one of the other episodes I've done with guy Jason Holiday. He has the Harvest Holiday podcast, and he's another guy that runs the Kifaru packs, swears by them, and him and I were just talking yesterday actually about that, like looking in, because that's one of the things, because eventually want to do an elk hunt. So just trying to acquire all the gear over time. And he's like, dude, that's the way to go. You got to get fitted with them. And I know they
Yeah.
just moved to I think buildings to
Wyoming.
Wyoming. Yeah.
Yeah. I think they're
So,
still going to keep the shop open in Colorado.
okay.
But yeah, I think headquarters and manufacturing will all move to Wyoming. But I would totally agree. Like Kifaru's top notch, man. Like it's probably, in my opinion, like one of the nicest packs. And I'm a pack junkie. Like I've ran quite a few in the past, and Kifaru's by far like probably the most comfortable, nicest. And it's extremely modular, which is a huge selling point, so like once you get a frame, which is I would say probably one of the bigger ticket items, like you can go from pack to pack and just keep throwing them on the frame. So if you get like, a smaller pack for like whitetail season, like I have the Striker XL, I could just take that pack off and buy a new pack, and I don't have to rebuy a frame. You know what I mean? So huge advantage over some of the other suppliers, I feel like. But yeah, they're sweet, but they're expensive, but it's definitely worth it,
say that seems like, for me, like, yeah, stuff can be expensive, but when you know the companies and what they do with it and how they invest it into the company to make better products, it's like, okay, like, plus that gear is going to last you, for how many years? Like, it's an investment now, but over time, like, your money's going to be worth it.
I feel. And their customer service is outstanding. Like when I bought my Striker XL, I had ordered stays and the stays were wrong. I messaged Aaron Snyder, the owner, and he's like, I'll call you right now. So he called me and I was talking to him and he's like, yeah, you got the wrong stays. I was like, oh, bummer, man. I was planning on using this for my hunt coming up. And he's like, well, when's your hunt? I was like, it's Friday. He's like, oh, I'll just overnight you new stays. So he overnighted me stays.
Yeah.
So I had the right ones for my hunt. So I was like, customer service like that, man. Like, I mean, you got my business, dude. I'll keep buying your stuff. So yeah, like I said, they're top-notch customer service.
Absolutely. That's pretty cool that he just reached out like that. I'm like, oh yeah, no worries, man. Like that just goes to show you, like you said, the customer service. And I feel like I like just hunting in general, like the whole community is just super chill and like willing to help each other get stuff done. Like I wasn't sure getting into this if this would be some, I think we talked about this in the previous podcast, but like things where it's just like, oh, you're on your own, figure it out. Like,
yeah,
doesn't seem that way to me, or at least maybe it used to be in the past, but with social media, I don't get that feeling anymore.
Yeah, I think a lot of public land hunters probably got a bad rap, and I'm sure you'll probably, you'll run into some people who, they act like, it's their public land. Like, hey, what are you doing in my spot? It's like, dude, it's
our
public
spot.
land, bro. It's I mean, you still run into those guys, but I mean, I think it's far and few between. I don't think it's like it used to be back in the day, So yeah, I mean, I think it's a great community, and I think most of the people that you run into are probably willing to help out, you know what I mean? So but yeah, man, I'm looking forward to TAC again. I feel like I wish I could go up like Thursday and shoot Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Like, like give it one more day.
I went up Thursday myself. Like, yeah, I got up and I was like, well, I don't want to just drive up Friday, and got up there Thursday. I'm like, then I was sitting around in the campsite and I was like, could be going shooting right now.
Was there anyone else at the campsite from TAC? Or were you?
The one that I went to, it was called Northern Exposure.
Okay.
It was right on the Manistee River. It was actually super, super gorgeous. The water is super clear, so it wasn't bad. But it was a family campground, which I was like, whatever, it's fine. It's just me. It's not like I'm gonna be too wild,
Right.
So I was like, plus it's cheaper that way. And there was, I think, Friday, some guys showed up that were like right at the site across from me. But because I saw they had like bows in the back of their truck, and I saw them real quick just hop in the car and drive off, but never got a chance to like say anything. I think it was just me and them that I noticed, at least. But the campsite was packed in general. but it was a
Yeah.
lot more families just there to,
Yeah.
camp for the weekend, swim, and do all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I wish. Yeah, I got up there Friday morning. It wasn't too bad. I thought I was going to hit a bunch of traffic, but it wasn't.
Mhm.
Wasn't too shabby. I got there actually a little earlier than I expected, so I got to hang out a little bit, and then, we jumped on and shot the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. So one of the guys from Sunrise Archery, Chase. I don't know if you know him, the young guy that works up at the bow shop there. He
Mhm.
he got an entry in on the truck, so
Oh, he did?
yeah, yeah, he was shooting real well. So yeah, he went up Sunday and went and shot. So fingers crossed. Hopefully he wins it. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that will be one of my things next year because I was like, there's no way I'm hitting that with my sight set up and everything, and I wasn't comfortable enough. I was like,
Yeah,
but
I didn't
yeah, that,
shoot. I didn't shoot it either. It's because like I didn't. I was in the same boat. I'm like, I'm not dialed for
no,
111 right now. Like so,
no.
but like Chase was shooting. He was shooting with Derek. Derek told me that him and they were shooting like a couple days before TAC, and he was getting like a 1 inch group at 105 yards. So I was like, he needs
I
to
think I
shoot
saw
for
that
that
on his
truck.
Instagram. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So he was shooting really well. So yeah, like I said, he got one in. So all it only takes is one. So hopefully he's the lucky guy that wins the truck. That'd be awesome.
that truck looked nice sitting there. I was like,
Oh yeah,
oh
dude.
man, that'd
Yeah.
be so cool.
It's probably like $100,000 truck with all the
Mhm.
options on it. You know what I mean? So yeah, it'd be a big win.
So, what exactly for you? Because I know I've kind of said what I'm looking for next year. What are the things that you're going to do different for TAC kind of set up next year?
Like I said, I think I'm gonna run. I am gonna run a lighter arrow, just to get some more yardage, and I think I might play around with different sites. I saw a lot of people, and I've wanted to check one out for a while. I just haven't, but I saw a lot of people shooting the Ultra View.
I was just going to say
Um,
that the Ultra View
yeah,
is the one I saw a lot.
I want to check out the Ultra View. So, I'm probably going to. I'm debating if I want to, you know, um, what mount I'll put it on, because like now they have one for Tetra, or HHA, the HHA Tetra. They now have a connection for the Ultra View. They have one. Spot Hog's got one. The new Dialed Archery, who I was hoping to see at Total Archery Challenge, because I
Mhm.
noticed that they were at some of the ones out west. But they have one now, and then Excel has one. So I'm like kind of debating between which one of those
Mhm.
I'd like to go with. I'm leaning more towards the Excel mount, but I think that's what I might do. I might run their smaller scope, because I
Yeah.
feel like with that smaller scope, and some of their sight tapes go out to 120. So I feel like with that scope, that 120 yard sight tape, really light
Mhm.
arrow, probably get a setup that's pretty money for a TAC setup. So, it'd be
Yeah.
a good target bow, good 3D archery bow setup, specifically for like long range. So that's probably what I'll play around with. And then, you know, like I said, just not mess around with so many different releases. Before leading
Right.
up to TAC, I had started making so many changes on my bow. Um, that I started to like get into a rat hole. And I was like, I was gonna bring my old bow up because I was not confident with my new one.
Mhm.
And then like it was like 2 weeks before TAC, I finally got like in the zone and was able to like, okay, I can start getting some good reps. And I started, getting a little more confident, went out and shot 80, went out and shot 100, and started grouping pretty decent. And I was like, okay, I'll bring the new one. But
Mhm.
definitely spending more time getting actually prepared for TAC versus just messing around, and making changes. So,
Right.
but yeah, that would be what I would do differently. And then, maybe get up there a little bit early so I could shoot a course Friday morning, Friday afternoon, Saturday, and then Sunday. So
Mhm.
yeah, get as many in as you can.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be next year. What I'm going to try and do as well is get an early knock time and then get out there again in the afternoon, get some more courses in because definitely by the end of it, I was like, Oh, I want to keep shooting, but everything's
Yeah.
closed down. Like, it's a little bit of a
Yeah.
bummer, but
Yeah, it definitely makes you want to get out and shoot more. And the first year that we went, like I didn't even know that that was a thing. I didn't know that you could get on an early knock time and then go and shoot the afternoon,
yeah.
without paying more money. So like, yeah, that's a huge thing that like I feel like if you're gonna go out to tack, obviously if you can secure an early knock time, it's obviously extremely beneficial because then you can just shoot more, you know what I mean? So
Mhm.
but yeah. Yep, that's what I'll do different, man. I can't wait. I can't wait to go again. I wish there was like another tack
I
event.
know.
I mean,
Is
there's
that
the
something
R.
you'd ever do? Like go to different? Because I know that there's more than just Michigan. Would you ever consider going to different state for one?
Yeah, actually, I talked about it last year, but we just never did it. I talked about going to Pennsylvania. I
Hmm.
think it's Seven Springs because it's only a 6 hour drive. So like if you got like a group of buddies and
Yeah.
carpooled, all pitched in on gas. I mean, with gas prices right now, it's ridiculous. But
Take a loan out on the way
yeah,
there. Like, yeah, we'll
um,
get there.
but like I mean, I don't think that's unrealistic to be able to go and shoot Pennsylvania, Seven Springs. But there
I
is
know.
the R100 that's coming up in August, which is another. It's not. I wouldn't say it's comparable to TAC, but it's similar. It's another,
Mhm.
3D course that they have 100 different targets and a couple different ranges that you can shoot, and they have some extended yardages. So
Okay.
I'm going to go there. But yeah, that's it would definitely be nice to have like more attack, for sure throughout the summer. So
Yeah. Yeah. The whole event was just super cool, especially like I said, going by myself. And it was like at first I was kind of like, oh man, I wish I had some buddies that shot and could go with me, but I kind of enjoyed just because it was the first time that I had to push myself to do something that was out of my comfort zone like that. And kind of like the whole premise of the uh obviously what I'm doing with the podcast, like the forging roots, and really like trying to forge different things into what I might actually like and see, is this something that I'm gonna do? And everyone from just even the quick update, hopefully they heard that and then wanted to listen to what we had to say more in depth. But people like, dude, you seem so passionate. Like I had a buddy, this is the first time that this happened. He texted me, he's like, just love what you're doing with your podcast, and I could tell you're passionate about this stuff. That's so awesome to hear. And then he's like asking, like, dude, when can I come over and we can go to bow shop and try, maybe I'll get a bow. I got my uncle that's saying like maybe he wants to get one now. My cousin that does have one that's out on the west side of Michigan, he's like, yeah, I'm going next year for sure now. Like, so it's cool to see like just my experience and sharing this stuff and seeing other people want to go, because I told him like, even if you just got the slightest hint like, it might be kind of cool, just go.
yeah,
Like that was my thing, because I was like, we'll see how it goes. And I got done, I was like, yeah, you're gonna have to make this a thing every year. Like everyone's super cool. It helps,
yeah.
especially being in Michigan. It just the different shots like helped grow me as an archer just so much in that little amount of time, versus no matter how much I could shoot out in my backyard, like getting those angles that you just don't get to see every day. Like,
Yeah, it pushes you past your comfort zone for sure.
mhm.
Yeah, and I give you props for going solo, man. Just going and just jumping on and shooting with random people. I think that, that's pretty cool. So, I mean, I give you props for that for
Yeah,
sure.
and made some friends out of it. And there, I mean, because at first I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna do. And the Saturday course, there was a girl that was there with her dad. She was only like 10 years old, and she was shooting, and that I was like, okay, good. Like I won't be the only one missing shots, hopefully. But
Yeah.
then I saw her shot. I'm like, crap, I think she's better. Like, granted,
Yeah.
she was moving up to 40 yards, but that was the other thing too, is like seeing how cool people were. Like it wasn't necessarily like, I mean, there was some group of buddies that like being fun, trying to keep score, but if you couldn't hit a shot and you're like, I'm just more comfortable, walk up to 40 yards, whatever you're comfortable with,
Yeah.
and people don't care. Like that was cool to see.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, yeah, some people between groups, like, the buddies that I went with, like we're shit talking the
Yeah.
whole weekend, you know what I mean? But it's like, yeah, it's not a competition. You know what I mean? If you feel more comfortable, move up, dude. You know what I
That
mean?
was
You
the
might catch some
yeah.
slack for it, but it's all good. Yeah.
Yeah, because even trying to describe this, like people at work and like friends are like, so what is this? I'm like, well, it's total archery challenge. It's kind of like golf, but for archery. Like, oh, okay. Well, hopefully you win. I'm like, well, no, it's not a competition, really. It's just for fun. They're like, what are you talking? I'm like, it's hard to explain. You just got to see it. And seeing your video too, because it was cool, because that was something I eventually want to get into, is like being able to get some video stuff and record rather than just doing the podcast like I have this, but actually getting a camera set up at some point. But the being able to like show my parents like, oh, this is the course I was telling you about, like seeing yours, and like this was the black rifle I shot through here, like super cool to share that, because then people can actually see it better.
Yeah. No, it is hard to explain, especially to someone who's like not involved in archery. Like
Mm-hmm.
you tell people, like even guys that do shoot, like there's guys at my work, they're like, man, I don't shoot. Like the farthest I've ever shot is 60 yards. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, man, there's targets out to like 120, and they're like, that's
Wow.
crazy. They're like, yeah, they're like, I'll never shoot that far. I'm like, you got to go to TAC, man. Like you got to check it out. But yeah, like explaining it to some people that don't shoot archery, like I get the same thing. They're like, huh, what are you doing? It's like, nah, it's just a good time, man. Like it
Right.
pushes you to like I said, the biggest thing is it pushes you out of your comfort zone. And I think as someone who shoots, that bow hunts, that likes to shoot 3D archery, target archery, it forces you to get better. Because
Mm-hmm.
shooting at those distances, like if you want to get like even remotely decent, like your form has to be like pretty much spot on. Like if you have bad form and you take a shot at 80 yards, you're not going to miss by an inch or two
No.
like you will at 20. You're going to miss by like a foot, and up or down, you're not hitting the target, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like it's like I said, it forces you to get dialed, it forces you to get better, forces you out of that comfort zone. And I think that's where at least in my experience, shooting long distance has made me a better shot for those up close ranges. Like you shoot 80 all the time, you move into like 30, 20, 40, it's
Mm-hmm.
like, man, this is freaking, I can see the
Chip
target,
shot.
like
Yeah.
I can't just see my pin, you know what I
I was
mean?
gonna say
So
your pin just makes it disappear. Like, oh boy.
yeah, like,
Yeah.
I think I'm on it. But yeah, it's just, I mean, like you said, it's like a chip shot, so it just makes those shots way easier. And it does correlate to like hunting, it
Mm-hmm.
definitely will make you a better shot in a hunting situation for sure.
I was
So
gonna say it even gave me that little bit of a bug of like, as you're coming around and you just see that elk bedded down, or like standing up on the like right around. It's like, since I've never done it yet, I'm like, this is my first little taste of it, and seeing it, I was like, oh man, I can't wait for that day. Like this is cool just to see and be able to do all that stuff. Like hopefully one day soon.
yeah,
But
make it happen, man. Like I said, my biggest regret about elk hunting was not going sooner.
mhm.
You're in a situation where you got no kids, like just get a group of guys together and make it happen, man.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Well, I think that's a good spot to end. If you have any other questions or anything you need to add, no.
no, man, not at all.
Oh,
Thanks
cool.
for having me back on.
Well, yeah, Aaron, I appreciate you coming back on. And for people that need to know all the stuff, I'll link all your YouTube and Instagram, all that, in the description below. And I'm sure it was on the podcast previous. If you still listen to this all the way through and haven't, go back, listen to the one that we did before. It was also really fun. But yeah, thanks for coming on, Aaron. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Anytime.